This episode of TechnoBuffalo is brought to you by Squarespace, because people love corners. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Ask the Buffalo. This time, though, we are in our new set, new studio, my new office. You can see the new background behind me. Excuse all the white walls in this area. We are still decorating. Click me for suggestions, though, for what we should put behind me. So Ask the Buffalo is a series where you can ask me, John Rettinger, any question that you have from the wide world of technology. Today we're going to be talking Apple, we're going to be talking tablets, we're going to be talking Android, of course, and we're going to be talking some personal history. So let's go ahead and get started. This is Ask the Buffalo. So if you want to send in questions to Ask the Buffalo and have your name and question featured in one of these upcoming videos, you can do it in one of two ways. First, you can go ahead and go to TechnoBuffalo.com every Tuesday afternoon. We'll put up a post asking for questions. It'll be live until Thursday. You can leave them down below in the comments. Or if sticking to a calendar is not your thing, you can send questions any time of day to @TechnoBuffalo using the hashtag AskTheBee. Ask your question, I will read it, and I will put it in this video. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get to our first question. Our first question comes from Lee, who wants to talk about Android tablets. John, how do Android tablets compare to the iPad? So of course you're talking about Android's tablet operating system, Honeycomb. And that's really the same question that people have when they ask how Android compares to iOS. They're both excellent, but they both do very different things. Android is going to give you a ton more customization options. Certainly Honeycomb is a little bit less customizable than, say, Gingerbread is, the operating system used on the phones, but you do get a lot more flexibility over what you can do with your device. You can go ahead and change launcher settings, you can change the way icons look, and there's a lot more things you can do in the legal hacking realm. If you look on over in the iOS side, things are very tight-knit, completely vertically integrated, and you are in Apple's walled garden. If you're okay with an icon-based interface and you're okay with using iTunes, and if you use iTunes anyway, and you want to stay in that ecosystem, it's going to be very smooth and fluid, and it works very well. Apple controls the hardware and Apple controls the software. That's what vertical integration means. So you get a very seamless experience. But if on the other side of it, let's say you're not an Apple user, you don't use iTunes very much, you use this third party for managing your music, and you want the customization, and you want the flexibility that Android's going to give you, you want to determine what your tablet's going to look like, you don't want your tablet to determine itself what it's going to look like, then Android's going to be a very good way to go. They're both awesome tablets, and they both make awesome tablets. Some Android tablets are better than others. In my experience, the two best Android tablets, at least thus far, the Samsung Galaxy Tab line, 10.1 if you want the big size, is great, or any of the smaller variants. The Asus ePad Transformer was also one of my favorite Android tablets. And of course on the Apple side, you have the iPad 2, or if you want to go the used route, the iPad 1. So hopefully, Lee, that helped answer your question just a bit. Our next question wants to know about the Nexus line of phones. It comes from user Paul M02, who asks, John, do you think Google will stomp their Nexus phones after the Nexus Prime, or do you think that they'll keep the Nexus line of phones, but the next one after the Prime built by Motorola? So that was a very convoluted way of, I think, asking, do you think Google's going to continue with the Nexus line of phones after the Prime comes out, or is Motorola going to keep building them after the acquisition goes through? Presumably goes through, I should say. So first, the Nexus Prime hasn't been announced, so there's no guarantee it's even going to come to market. Despite rumors we're hearing of Verizon being one of the early launch carriers, I do think we are going to continue to see a Nexus line of phones. Android is very much a developer's platform, and developers oftentimes need reference hardware. So from a technical standpoint, it makes perfect sense for Google to release a Nexus line of phones that consumers can also take advantage of, but developers can use as sort of the archetypal example of what they're programming for. So we had the Nexus 1 and the Nexus S, and now we're coming out with the Nexus Prime. Specs are really what everybody's wondering about the Nexus Prime. We first heard dual core, now we're hearing quad core rather, now we're hearing super fast dual core, but a giant 4.6 inch or bigger screen really has yet to be seen. Presumably though, we're looking at the launch of Ice Cream Sandwich, the variant of Android that the Nexus Prime will hopefully launch with, coming out in October, which is very soon, so we should know much more about the Nexus Prime. And answering your question, I would expect a new Nexus line of phones, probably built by Motorola, once a year. I want to take a minute to thank our friends and sponsors at Squarespace. If you want to create a website, maybe you're not the most technically savvy, like me for example, but you still want an awesome looking site, Squarespace is a great way to go. Squarespace is a fully hosted platform. There's nothing to install. You get instantly updated stability and all kinds of cool website-ish stuff. Point and click design controls. You can design whatever you want just by dragging things onto your site. Tons of page flexibility. You get social widgets, all that Twitter and Flickr stuff that you like. Beautiful galleries and slideshows and 24-hour customer support. If you want to check on that customer support, you can go ahead and call them at 3 in the morning just to say hello. If you want to get in on this, you can go to www.squarespace.com and get a 2-week free trial and 10% off. Just use the coupon code TECHNO9. So if you want to start a blog, you've always wanted to create your own website, Squarespace is going to be a great way to do it. Show your support for us and get a pretty good deal. Go to squarespace.com, sign up and use the code TECHNO9. We thank you. Our next question comes from Twitter. User iStevenZu, X-U-E-Su, who asked, John, do you think the iPhone 5 is going to be an international phone? The answer is yes, of course. First of all, it's a GSM-based phone using some of the most common bands in the world. So assuming we don't have LTE in there, yes, it's of course going to be international. You can obviously get one unlocked. Canada sells them unlocked, the US now sells iPhone 4s unlocked, and I'm quite talking about the iPhone 4. Presumably the same thing will be with the iPhone 5. If you get an unlocked version, you can pop in your SIM card anywhere you are. But the iPhone also has international support. It's launched in a majority of countries all over the world, so assuming that same launch pattern will stay through, yes, chances are you'll get an iPhone 5 in your country. It doesn't always launch pan-globally or all over the world. Pan-globally, probably not the right choice of words. It may not launch all over the world right at once. Sometimes it launches in 4 countries at first, and then it'll sort of roll out over the next few months. But chances are you will get an iPhone 5 in your country. So thank you everybody for watching another episode of Ask the Buffalo. Hopefully the new studio lighting and audio is going to be okay. I will see you guys next Monday. We are here every Monday with a new episode of Ask the Buffalo. Thank you to our editing guru, John Quach, who is probably frantically working to make my face appear less shiny. Thank you, John Quach. I'm John Rettinger from TechnoBuffalo, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Donzies! Woo! Boom! A chicka chicka boom! Woo! Swirly chair dance. You do the swirly chair dance. And now I'm dizzy.